So we always hear that NATO expansion being a threat to Russia is a Kremlin talking point, that, anyone who says this or suggests that Russia feels threatened by NATO in any way is a bot by the Kremlin. He's controlled by Putin, personally controlled by Putin, and all this stuff. So I found a Russian agent that I wanted to show to you who's saying this, and his name is Joe Biden, and he said this in 1997. Take a look.
I think the one place where the greatest consternation would be caused in the short term for admission would be to admit the Baltic states now in terms of NATO-Russian, U.S.-Russian relations. And if there was ever anything that was going to tip the balance, were it to be tipped in terms of a vigorous and hostile reaction, I don't mean military, in Russia, it would be that.
You see, Biden is clearly a Putin puppet. He's as Russian as they come, right? He's completely compromised and bought. I wonder if there's a P tape on Biden, just like Trump, right? When it comes to talking about NATO expansion, I know another Russian asset and another Russian agent who's also in the current administration. His name is William Burns. He's none other than the CIA director, because he also wrote in 2008 that the red line for Moscow would be, of course, NATO expansion. So clearly he's bought by Putin. I mean, what other conclusion is there, right? If a Trump official had said that, then everyone would agree that he's bought by Putin. They're controlled by the Kremlin. So I don't see why it's any different for Biden or, William Burns. Makes sense, right? Because that's a Kremlin talking point. If you say that, Russia is threatened by a Western military alliance, by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, then obviously you are completely batshit crazy and you're controlled by the Ruskies, right? Here, for example, William Burns, he writes in 2008 that Ukraine and Georgia's NATO aspirations not only touch a raw nerve in Russia, they engender serious concerns about the consequences for stability in the region. Not only does Russia perceive encirclement and efforts to undermine Russia's influence in the region, but it also fears unpredictable and uncontrolled consequences which would seriously affect Russian security interests. Experts tell us that Russia is particularly worried that the strong divisions in Ukraine over NATO membership, with much of the ethnic Russian community against membership, could lead to a major split involving violence or, at worst, civil war. In that eventuality, Russia would have to decide whether to intervene, a decision Russia does not want to have to face. Oh, okay, I see how it is. So you're trying to justify the invasion of Ukraine, you Putin puppet? That's what the CIA director is doing here, obviously, right? If he's saying that Russia would be forced to intervene and it's not something he wants to do, well, obviously only a Russian asset would say that. Do you see how fucking stupid this whole logic is? Because it's not just people who've been saying this for, on both sides of the aisle, as they say, whether it's Republican or Democrat. It's also, they've been saying this before Putin was even president. This has been clear for 30 years, that if you poke the Russian bear, they're going to get upset. This will tip the balance of power. It's not good. And again, I think most people would look at this and say, yeah, but that doesn't justify Russia invading Ukraine. And you can definitely make that point. I'm very interested to see what legal scholars of international law come to what conclusion they come to under Article 51 of the UN Charter. Because if, for example, Israel or the United States say, look, there are Iranian militias in Syria, so we're going to invoke Article 51 and bomb them in self-defense. So how is that different when Russia says, look, there are terrorists and neo-Nazis in Ukraine, and we need to defend ourselves under Article 51, we're going to bomb Ukraine? How is that different? Right? If you let the US and Israel get away with it under international law, why can't Russia then? Because, they're invoking the same article and claiming self-defense. At least with Russia, it's actually next to Ukraine. And there's 60 years of antagonism against Russia. With the United States, you don't have a border with Syria, so I don't know what the hell you're doing there anyway. But I digress. My point is that this shows you again that there are so many US officials on record from the 90s, from the 2000s, from now, who are very clear and unequivocal that NATO expansion is a threat to Russia, and they do not take kindly to being ignored. Again, in December, they sent multiple proposals and demands, asking not just for Ukraine not to be allowed into NATO, but for NATO troops in the neighboring states not to be deployed there. So you like German troops in Estonia, for example, they don't want that. And also for nuclear missiles not to be deployed there. I think these are reasonable demands, because if the Russians did that to the US, if they came and put their missiles in Cuba, well, we know what happened. It's not even a hypothetical. Just go look at what happened in the Cuban Missile Crisis. There was almost a nuclear war. And the whole idea was, you Americans, you're trying to do a coup against the Cubans, so they've asked us to come and defend them. And also, you're putting Jupiter nuclear missiles in Turkey, right, which can reach Russia. In response to that, the Russians put nuclear missiles in Cuba. It's like tit for tat. And they didn't like that. And there was almost a nuclear war. So obviously, both sides don't take kindly to having nuclear missiles and foreign troops, and especially Russian or American vice versa, on their borders. And I think it's completely ignorant and batshit and completely childish to ignore this and act like everything that's happening right now in Russia is somehow happening in a vacuum. You know, it's just like it's Putin and he's this evil character and he wants to dominate the planet. No, this is not a comic book. This is international relations. There's geopolitical context, and you cannot ignore that, because again, this is it's like burying your head in the sand and lying and completely lying and making the Russians out to be fools. And this is again the whole issue, is that people are not taking the Russians seriously. And now the Russians are saying, you're not going to take us seriously when we do diplomacy. Maybe you'll take us seriously when we do this. Again, it doesn't make it right, but you have to understand their point of view and what has led to this action. You can't be like, oh, this just happened for no reason. Putin fell out of the sky and decided to go into another country. No. There is a geopolitical context here. And the fact that liberals and Western media are trying to omit that and censor anyone who literally just cites U.S. officials. Like, I'm just showing you what Biden himself is saying, what Burns himself is saying. The people who are in power now. I'm just quoting them. And they say that's Kremlin talking point. Get the hell out of here.